Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Eating Peace this week. I worked with a client this past week that reminded me of a very important thing to consider if you have eating peace, weight, body image, stress, anxiety that we usually don't really think of so often. And I remember the time when it became clear to me, wow, this is an interesting inquiry. And that is, considering no matter what your weight is currently at this time, what is actually disturbing, bad, scary, frightening, uncomfortable about being the quote unquote perfect body image or perfect weight for you or thin, and what is actually comfortable and helpful and supportive about being in a heavier body if you're in one, or about being in the body that you are in or were in. And actually reversing or turning around the most customary ideas about heaviness and thinness, which is that it's bad to be heavy and it's great to be thin, right? But let's sink into something that's beyond that simplicity in the culture, wherever you live. So what is actually helpful for you personally if you really just opened up to that question about being heavier if you are? What does it mean? What does it mean for you and about you? What does it mean about other people? What does it mean for the world? What does it mean about your relationship to moving about in the world? People find things like the reason it's great to be heavy is there's no sense of needing to accomplish something. I've already failed. So let's just be acceptable and accepting exactly where I am. It's kind of too late, or we beyond all that, or and I mean like in a non-stressful way, like what is comfortable about that? There's something about, I'm not on a diet, perhaps. I know sometimes that is not the case. There's something that keeps me safe. I have food as an option. I can eat whatever I want, whenever I want, with whoever I want. I know some of this may or may not be true. You just see what's comfortable. I show up as a heavy person, so other people will think, well, she's very jolly and nice and fun. She's a non-threat. She's a person who is not going to steal my husband. This is an interesting concept. It's just some sense of what is safe, what is comfortable, and it may be completely false stories, of course, but we're just looking, and you get to see in your own life what can feel kind of like it assists you in some way. It may not be the best thing, what you really want, or that you're telling yourself you want, but there might be something intriguing, interesting, supportive, or helpful about you being the weight that you're at. And just to consider, maybe you fend off any interest from other people, like that would be romantic or sexual or attraction. Maybe that's just not on the table when you have the body you have, you think. You don't have to worry about buying new clothes. It's just, in a way, exploring and being interested in what this offers you and really being serious about this instead of just dismissing it as ridiculous. Because sometimes there are competing inner fears, really deep, and they might seem childish, but sort of basic underlying beliefs that feel stressful about having a different body than the one you've got, or one that is not heavy. You remember that heavy time. I have spoken with plenty of people and worked with a ton of clients in this eating peace issue in this world, or lack of peace, that have talked about coming down to a normal weight and being terrified and having a lot of interest. And people who have directly told me that they have then become much more promiscuous and had far more dating in their life, or been kind of really, really involved in, like hyper involved in relationships that they didn't want to be involved in. They didn't want to have their attention so much on that. So Powerful to notice. And one thing that's also interesting is the flip side, thinness, and what's wrong with it. The client that I had been working with recently was noticing how envy seemed to rise up from people when she had had an experience, even quite young, with thinness. Envy, the people thinking that you've got it all together, people wanting answers from you or ideas, thinking that you've got it all. Somehow, if you've seen something, if what can be helpful with this is if you haven't experienced great thinness, but you look at a movie star's body, because movie stars, right, often they have the body that is sort of revered in the culture. So there they have that body, and what do you think they have that you don't have? What have they got? What are they able to do? What does that mean when they've got their body that is dangerous or unsafe or uncomfortable? What do you not like about it? It's really interesting when the client, the inquirer, looking at her thoughts, realized, maybe I need to be comfortable with people being jealous of me or hating me for being thin. Interesting in itself to question, but something that was a little light bulb went off for her, something intriguing and interesting. Sometimes it's great to go all the way back as far as you can go. Any of you can try this and see if there are people in your life who you had some of this story within them, and they were either modeling it right in front of you or actually saying things to you about your body shape and size. What I mean by modeling it in front of you is they might not have said anything directly to you about your own weight or something that should be different, but they are behaving in such a way that they're talking about themselves. There being something wrong with their own body, or they're just showing you how they are with food and eating, or the commentary that they have about their own body. And you realize the stress. You either say, I don't want to be like that, or I do want to be like that. I don't want to bring up envy. I don't want competition. I don't want separation with this other person. I do want connection, solidity, solidarity, being the same, being in agreement with them, doing what they want, being approved of, having love. So just something really interesting to see. The underlying reasons why we feel really actually very uncomfortable with being that other weight that we always say we want to be. That super skinny weight or that super heavy. What is it serving? What kind of purpose does it have? What kind of safety does it offer or comfort? What does it mean? And really sitting with a pen and paper or talking to a close friend and hearing yourself say what you come up with, no matter how ridiculous it seems the minute you say it. These can be incredibly helpful. It's like your immunity to change. I didn't make up that word. I've heard it out there in the world of transformation and change and interpersonal change. It's like, what is making me immune? So let's just look at everything that alarms me about the condition that I'm in, or this way that I am, my relationship with reality. And when it comes to food and eating and having this body image, my first eating issues began out of my thoughts about body image. My body image was wrong. I need to be skinnier. Then people will really like me and admire me and be proud of me and be so fascinated and interested, like I have a magical touch somehow if I'm this thin person, this greatly desired thing, and kind of a beyond somehow, beyond, like sort of removed in a way, like over there in a admired bubble from a distance. Don't have to get too intimate, but I liked that idea. And of course it was rampant in the culture that we want to be skinny. Everybody wants to be thin. So, therefore, said my my teenage, preteen mind, the way people get thin is they eat less. Therefore, I will eat less and I will go on a diet. I've seen people dieting around me before. My mother is supporting this story. She wants to be thin too. I saw her go on a diet when I was only 8. There's talk about food and restricting it in this household and how that's a better thing to be. And it doesn't mean you don't like thinness ultimately, or feeling comfortable in your body in that way. But I just noticed these pieces of the story came together, and the action taken was I must restrict my food. And of course, the counteraction came alive very quickly after. My God, I must not restrict my food. I hate restricting my food. I don't like being hungry. I don't like being tired or withdrawn or lethargic because I haven't eaten enough. I hate that. I don't like all these rules. I don't like this intensity. I don't want to be thinking about food all day long and how to eat less of it. It actually made me think about eating it more. So adding some sort of efforts into how I wanted my body to be that would be different than it was, thinner. This normal thing, normal weight, no good. The weight I am, that's not good. It needs to be different. Amazing inquiry. You can see what your thoughts are, see what your stressful beliefs are, the ones that are underneath that don't seem to be usually the normal thing that we just say off the top of our head or that come out. Of course I want to be thinner. Why would I not want to be? Why would it be good to be heavier or just the way I am? What's great about that? What's difficult about that? And then identify it. Then you can find, other people will be jealous of me if I'm thin. Is that true? You can take it to inquiry. You can pretend or remember or imagine, because of this frightening thing, somebody saying, like being disgusted and walking away or not wanting to be your friend or talking to you about it, whatever they say. Somebody feeling intimidated by you because you're thin. And just imagine whatever is stressful for you around that. That's what will happen. Is that true? That is happening. I can't be close to that person. I'm separated. There's something wrong. Is that true? Who would you be without that thought? Who would you be without that story? And then turn it around using the work of Byron Katie. Have fun exploring this one. It can be very exciting to discover what you really think about body image types and to take it through the work. All right, take care. Let me know how it goes.